Diablo 4 Season 3 quickly became a meme. D4 Bad has returned when comparing it to its predecessor, the Season of the Vampiric Powers. Cries of "my pet is bad" have been heard from the cosmos. But how much merit do these opinions and criticism of Season 3 have? Let's take some time to analyze where D4 Bad comes from and how the recent patch is sizing up to take us to the end of the season. Greetings Internet, DDA here, and I'd like to take some time to talk about Diablo 4 is bad, and where that comes from, and why Diablo 4 is not bad. Diablo 4 is actually a really great game and is only getting better over time. I'm seeing a lot of negative feedback and a lot of negative comments. I felt compelled that I had to release a video just to try to balance some things out and offer my opinions on the matter. I'm mainly here and I mainly make content and gaming content just to blast and have fun and make interesting character builds. I like being challenged as a player, both from a build perspective and also a gameplay perspective. I like when games make me think, so I like the seasonal rotation. It's basically a new puzzle and a new math problem to solve every season, and I really like that. We're going to talk about some heavy topics in this video, and I would suggest that if you don't want to take kind of a deep dive into the philosophy of where D4 Bad is coming from, I suggest skipping towards more of the middle of the video when I'm actually going to talk about the seasonal mechanic and why I love Season 3. Now, just so you understand where I'm coming from, I am an old school OG Diablo 2 gamer. Diablo 2 quite literally defined my childhood. It was the first RPG that I sunk an incredible amount of time into. I remember sneaking down to our family computer that was in our living room in the middle of the night just to do Mephisto runs and to do Pindle runs on my Magic Find Frozen Orb Sorcerer. I love it so much, and that's why when D3 came out, I played it with high hopes, but I really did not enjoy the character customization of D3. I did not enjoy the art style, nor did I enjoy the gear and the way that they set up the uniques and things. I think Diablo 4 did just such a better job at both like the class fantasy, the class design in general, as well as the gear design. Like Diablo 4 is just, it ticks all the boxes for me, and to me is a perfect successor to Diablo 2. Now, one of the things I don't understand when people say, you know, D4 bad, one of the most common things is they say, there's no end game, there's no end game, and I don't understand this. The end game is the dungeon loop. That's what we did. That's what we do in Diablo. We do dungeon loops. We level our characters, we try out interesting builds, we gear chase. The gear chase in this game is good. There are specific ways to target farm certain things that you want to get, and yeah, it takes some time, but that is the end game. They add challenges into the game for us to challenge the top end builds that we create. So after we've gotten all the gear, after we've done the dungeon looping, and then we want to test out our builds and content that challenges us, they've added that. They've been testing out Abattoir of Zir. I'm sure we'll see it again. And likewise, they're adding the Gauntlet. Maybe it's me as an old school gamer and the nostalgia glasses that I have on for Diablo 2, but I love the endgame of Diablo 4. I play all my characters to level 100. I play them well past level 100, and I grinded so many Abattoir of Zirs last season, and I am definitely going to do the same with the Gauntlet. Now, me being an old school gamer and kind of the differences in the new age of gaming kind of brings me to my next point. And that is how we've changed as a gaming society. Now, this is where I'm going to go a little deep on this because I'm going to talk about COVID. 2020 was a really tough year for us all. Previously established societal expectations, things we've taken for granted, suddenly weren't there for us anymore. We were forced to stay inside for close to a year. It changed me fundamentally as a person, and I'm sure it changed many of you out there as well. I think the pandemic is when things really started to focus on what makes us happy as a society. Because we were kind of locked indoors, it put a focus on the entertainment industry, music, movies, and gaming. You know, we were looking towards all these things to lift us up. We all started focusing on the entertainment industry, and we put a lot on these people's shoulders. The developers, the directors, everyone who makes media for us to consume and give us joy. We became ready to fight for what we wanted. We need it. And we get really upset when it doesn't meet our expectations. We get really upset when it doesn't give us the gratification that we're looking for. I believe that this time period a few years ago made us just more extreme as a society, more judgmental, basically more black and white, bad, good. And I see this in my social groups even to this day. And while the pandemic is far in our rearview mirror, it has been a while since it's over, it kind of just started this rolling rock where to this day, things just don't seem like they've gotten back to normal. Things have changed. It seems chaotic outside. So we look to our computers and we look to our televisions to give us an escape from the world. And I think this is where D4 Bad comes from. I think a lot of it is nostalgia, that we wanted it to be this idealistic view of what we had for the successor of the Diablo franchise. And I think a lot is just putting entertainment on a pedestal. Not that I don't think that we should be checking our game developers and making sure they're delivering a good product, which they have. You know, I have sunk probably close to 1,000 hours, if not, at least 500 hours into Diablo. I have well gotten back my price that I paid for the game. So, I mean, they've done their job. Now, these extreme reactions can be positive, and they can also be negative. It really depends. Because we are gamers. We are not game designers, right? Our reactions to a game don't necessarily reflect good or bad design. I think as a society, we don't really know what we want. We're just kind of frustrated that the game is not fun. And I think the best example of that is how the Diablo community acted about open world level scaling. Actman released a video about how the open world level scaling was taking away from the main point that you get from an RPG, the immersion, because you never felt like you were over leveling the RPG or outscaling, you know, the open world to a degree where you could go back and slaughter the content that previously was challenging for you. And a lot of you shared the same opinion about the open world scaling, so much so that Blizzard changed it. They changed the open world scaling, and in the process made the open world actually useless, and we never touched it ever again. And then we all complained about how the open world was useless and we never touched it, so they changed it back. So I'm not saying stop saying D4 bad. I think it instead of saying D4 bad, we should ask ourselves, why are these changes being made? And just have fun with the game, like play the game. Maybe look a little deeper and try to understand why some of the decisions were made. Now, while a lot of people have been jumping into the hype train, releasing videos about how Season 3 is terrible, not everyone has. And I have to give a shout out to Rax for his just excellent video that he released on his reflections on Season 3. He made a lot of good points in there, both positive and negative. I liked his balanced approach. And I agree with a lot of what he said. He talked about a lot of quality of life for the pet, how they could have made the pet into so much more, you know, added just these little features to the pet that would have made the seasonal theme just feel more present in the game. He also talked a lot about the linear scaling of the powers, which I think was a good point as well, which we have seen in the last update that was released. Now, I know that I would be crazy to say that the Seneschal construct has a power level comparable to that of the vampiric powers. Or would I? Would I be crazy to say? Because there are a couple things that I've been testing out that I think are really, really powerful. I've tried out most of the range abilities. In my opinion, the only two that are worth any salt are the Tempest, and I think the Firefly is okay. It's just really, really slow. It does good damage, though. But the Tempest attacks incredibly quickly, covers a large area, and it just applies all these effects that we could ever want. One of the big things that we got from this, the vampiric powers, was permanent vulnerable on everything, which with the breaking support, we are pretty much there. We are pretty much there with permanent vulnerable on everything. 60% chance to apply vulnerable. Yeah, it's not going to be on every single thing always, but it happens a lot. And the Tempest actually has a lot of range. The Seneschal Construct attacks from very far away. So one of the other things that people say is that the pet lags behind you. And that is sometimes true. Like if you're moving with a lot of movement speed and you're teleporting a lot, it does lag a little bit behind you. It does move fast as well. But with the Tempest, how quickly it attacks, and also how far away he can use Tempest, makes this combo excellent. And then likewise, I've been using the Swift support for extra attack speed. So it really helps, applying this to new targets. It just really lowers the downtime for him and his frequency of using the Tempest. I like this a lot. And then likewise, using the resource support, I am pretty much saved on resource. Like, this is rank. When I went to bed last night, these were rank 2 and 3. Now they're rank 6. And I think this is pretty much going to solve all my resource problems. With the Swift support, increasing the attack speed of the Tempest, I just think this setup is excellent. So the vampiric powers gave us resource and Feed the Coven. They gave us, permanent vulnerable with, the Cursed Touch, Prey on the Weak. We have a form of that now with breaking support. I think it's so close to being there. And then likewise, it gave us a lot of damage. Now, Flash of Adrenaline is almost there as well. Look at this. I have the cooldown is only 13 seconds, and the duration is actually 10 seconds now. So I know that if I rank these up to 10, this is a permanent buff that's on you. So we're talking about a permanent 20% damage increase always. That's a permanent 20% damage increase, as well as frequent, with the damage reduction for half of that time frame will always be up. So we're going to get a good 10%, what is that? Yeah. We're going to get like a good, 12 to 15% DR on for half the time. And then likewise, the 20% damage. We're pretty much here. We're pretty much at vampiric powers. And I think, Rax's point about the linear scaling was the most important point, I think, and they solved this. They solved it in the last patch. This patch that they just released, to me, completely solved all the issues with Season 3. It's going to make Season 3 one of the best seasons. And don't forget, we have Genesis and Evernight stones. Like, are we going to remember vampiric powers when we get +4 to all skills permanently? I don't think so. +4 to all skills is going to vastly add way more damage to anything that the vampiric powers do for us. And then likewise, we don't even really understand how this Genesis Stone works yet. Not completely. Not all the combinations. Like, we have to test all these out. This could completely break the construct for all we know. And the other thing is, the vaults are just fun. They're just fun to go through. You can memorize all the traps. It's not that hard, okay? Coming from a semi-competitive gamer, like, you can, and you have options too, right? So, like, if you don't want to worry about traps, you can brute force it. You can just use as much tuning stones as you need to just run through and not care about the traps. You can do that. You have that option. So for those who don't want to worry about the traps, just brute force it and farm the materials and put 30 stacks of Zoltan's warding on you and just run through the dungeon. Who cares? But if you do want to optimize and you do want to save materials like I do, the traps are there for you to be fun. Run through. It's not that hard. I've already pretty much gotten all the motions down. And doing the vaults in, between 5 to 10 minutes, super quick. The loot is excellent at the end with all the chests. You get a ton of legendaries, a ton of rare items. They're just super quick. And the other thing that I love about Season 3, and this is probably my favorite thing about Season 3, is that there is a clear distinction between builds that are good at killing bosses and builds that are good at clearing mobs and like clearing elite packs and clearing packs of mobs. There is like a clear distinction between the two. And I believe it's kind of like the two sides of the coin of Diablo 4 and different character builds. You have some builds that are good at one and some builds that are kind of okay at both, and excellent. You have all the different combinations. Well, what the vault system does is it gives us a path for builds that are good at clearing elite packs and good at clearing mobs. If you like to run dungeons and kill bosses, the Gauntlet is there for you. The Nightmare Dungeons are there for you. But if you like to clear packs and giant rooms of mobs, if you want a fast way to level, if you like using the Fireball enchantment, the vaults are amazing. And I'm having such fun with the season. I'm having such fun leveling. You see, I'm level 83 here. I'm just starting to gear up my character now and really get into the different character builds. So you'll definitely be seeing lots of character builds coming to the channel. And you know, if this season theme is not for you, don't sweat it. You know, games are supposed to be fun. And if you're not having fun, maybe that tells you it's time to take a step back. You know, I took a month off of Diablo. I didn't play a single little bit of Diablo for pretty much the last month of the season, last season. So I came into this season fresh, and I think, you know, with a little scaling of the Seneschal, we're going to be at a similar power level to what we were with Vampiric Powers. And I know the other point to this is that we lost Metamorphosis, and we lost that permanent Unstoppable. I'm telling you right now, I'm so glad. I never want something like that to be in the game again. The reason is it just made everything so trivial. Everyone had permanent Unstoppable. The game becomes super trivial when all you do is just run through with no, you know, it's like you're super tanky, you're super unstoppable, you do super damage. Like, it just made the whole game. Like, we needed Abattoir of Zir and that high-level challenging content for the game to even be like a game, rather than just like a cakewalk. Nightmare Dungeons became so easy, I could literally fall asleep and complete them. I'm someone who actually liked the difficulty of the release form of this game, like Season 0. Like, when I completed my first tier 90 on my Druid, I was so happy. Because the only people that were completing tier 100s back when the game launched were like the 0.01% of players. It wasn't even the top 1%. It was like a handful of players, and like 2 or 3 builds were able to do it. And I like that. Like, I like that form of optimization. I like that form of challenge. So I don't want them to just give us free power. They are giving us power with the Seneschal. We just have to build it up and have to find the combinations that actually work. So hashtag D4 good. I don't think this season is better than season 2 because I think the Abattoir of Zir was just so freaking fun. I had so much fun. So I'll have to see if the Gauntlet increases my opinion of this season. But right now, I'm going to put it higher than season 1 because I did not like the Malignant Hearts at all. I thought they were just... I thought the Barber Heart was just overtuned, and I just didn't like the theme. I hated the tunnels. The vaults are super fun. Like, I just love the changes that they made so much. Like, separating the two materials was the best change that they could have made. There's no competition between the vaults and running the Echo of Malphas now. And I'm sorry, I know I got kind of preachy in this video, you know, on my high horse about people memeing D4 bad. I know it all comes from love. It comes from the love of the game. They want this game to be better. But I wish that instead of just memeing D4 bad, we took some time to just think about what the devs are giving us and how we can use those tools to solve the puzzle of this dungeon game. Like, figure it out. And that's the beauty. That's the fun. The beauty and the fun in this game is figuring out those little micro optimizations and how to do vaults and how to do all these things. So please hit a like if you like this video. Please hit subscribe for all the best Diablo 4 content and guide videos. And as always, turn your dial to Random Number Gaming for weekly updates on Diablo 4.